Hey, it's Doris with Aldi Books. I'm here to do my Springathon Wrap Up, better late than never. I finished 5 books and I had 6 on my TBR, so I almost made it. And I am going to work that 6th book into my summer school readathon TBR. And if you don't know what summer school readathon is, it's a lot of fun because we love learning here on BookTube, do we not? I hope you will all join in. I will link that announcement video below. And I'm going to do my summer school TBR on Tuesday. So stay tuned for that as well. But anyway, back to Springathon. It was a great deal of fun. And yeah, I've ranked these. So I thought that would be a fun little twist on the wrap up. So I've ranked my Springathon reads. Nature writing is the focus here. So let's just dive in. So coming in at number 5, and these are all really good books. If it's a topic that interests you, I would recommend it because they're all really good. But you know, I'm ranking them just for kicks. Coming in at number 5 is The Great Naturalist. So I put this one in 5th place because it's not, you know, literary nature writing or in-depth nature writing. This is kind of encyclopedia textbook nature writing. So it's just all of the great naturalists through time, and just little, on average, 3-page briefs on, you know, their relevance to natural history. One definite plus, it's almost like a coffee table book. Really, it is, more or less. And it has gorgeous, gorgeous drawings in it. Lots of nature plates from naturalist text through the years. And I just love those, I'm especially drawn to botanical ones, but any kind of naturalist plates, I just could show you all of these. I could just sit here and flip through the book and show you all, there's a map, all of these gorgeous pictures. So I highly recommend it for that aspect. It's just really a beautifully put together book. This is one of my all-time favorites. I just, the Carolina parakeet makes me so sad. Anyway, so yeah, and the other plus for this book is kind of showing how science builds on itself. So I mean, these were great thinkers, but, you know, they didn't get their thoughts in a void. They were all building on their predecessors. Like Darwin's grandfather was a great naturalist, so obviously. And, you know, that's another kind of, not necessarily enlightening because I think we all knew it, but the bulk of these people are white men. And that's the way society worked at the time, you know, at least from the European perspective. Those with money got to do the cool things, and the rest of us worked really hard. Anyway, so there's that. Coming in at number 4, I had to count my books. We have Dinosaurs in the Attic, the American Museum of Natural History by Douglas J. Preston. So was Preston the one that wrote the one about the, I shouldn't mention books that I'm not familiar with. I know he wrote a lot of these medical ones. And I've heard that the Hot Zone is not very good because, you know. Anyway, we're not talking about those. Sorry. This one I enjoyed, you know. Again, the writing was nothing to write home about, so to speak. but it was very serviceable, and this material was very interesting to me. So this is the Natural History Collection in, I believe, New York City. But it's talking about, first off, all of the great paleontologists and naturalists of that era, and how the Natural History Museum was, you know, a more powerful entity with exploration at the time, and then it moves on to some of the displays and things. And yeah, it's just really, if you're interested in natural history and the natural history museums, you know, great explorations, explorers, you know, this would be one that you'd really want to get into. I really enjoyed it for that respect. So then these next three are really great. The writing is just, yeah. I had heard so many great things about The Feather Thief, Beauty Obsession and the Natural History Heist of the Century by Kirk Wallace Johnson. So this was really neat in that, you know, with all this nature writing, all these books are starting to, you know, touch each other in time. So, you know, collecting was big back in the 1800s, collecting species to bring back. And, you know, in our modern times that, you know, killing animals needlessly is just horrific. But from a science perspective in modern times, these museums are preserving specimens that scientists can study through the ages. So that was just really interesting to read about in here, the importance of that, and just like people's motivations for doing the things they do. So the premise of this is this young boy gets just really super intelligent kid, gets fascinated with fly tying, and he's also like a world-class musician. So he ends up in a conservatory in England and hears, you know, through his fly tying connections about this collection of exotic birds. You know, a lot of the Victorian fly tying was done with exotic feathers from around the world, species that are very rare or even extinct right now. And so he broke into the museum and stole this collection. It's bizarre, but just really fascinating read on many levels. So highly recommend that. It was, you know, like I said, great writing and very engrossing. Okay, so then from there, we just kind of take it up a notch to the next level with The Story of More by Hope Jaron, How We Got to Climate Change and Where to Go From Here. So this is the author of Lab Girl, the memoir that was super popular a couple years ago for good reason. Hope Jaron is a botanist, a world-class botanist, and this book, I would say, would be the one that, you know, I would recommend for people interested in reading more on climate change. This is very, it's very accessible, it's very knowledgeable, it's very relevant. She doesn't sugarcoat anything, but at the same time, she's not writing a premise to, you know, depress you and scare you into the next century. She just writes it how it is, and she writes it as this course that she's been teaching for years, and she shows how things have changed in her lifetime. And she does an excellent job. She's such a good writer. And I would say too that she moved her lab in the last few years. She's moved her lab from Hawaii, her botany lab from Hawaii to Norway, the entire lab, not just changed jobs, but she's, you know, the lab that she's been running for years, she's moved it to Norway because U.S. funding and respect for the scientists has taken such a sharp dip, which is so sad, so sad. But, you know, if you've been wanting to read a book on climate change and you're kind of intimidated by that for whatever reason, or you want a book that you can recommend to people who are intimidated by the thought or even negative about it, this, I think, is the book that you would want to read or recommend. Really good, but really approachable. Yes. The Story of More by Hope Jaron. Write it down. And then this is going to shock Heidi because, you know, this could be my nature writing book of the year right here. It is that good. It is so good. However, I was virtually hiking through Key West with Britta Bowler and wanted to add a Florida book to my nature writing for the month. So I did a little research trying to find something in Key West or, you know, down South Florida. And I just came across this one, The Swamp, The Everglades, Florida, and the Politics of Paradise by Michael Grunwald. And, you know, it didn't start out taking me by storm, you know. It was good. It started out good, but I never dreamed that this would be such an important writing. So the Everglades is a very specific biome, one that you don't see anywhere else in the world, and very important environmentally. And we as humans in our capitalistic society have practically destroyed it. So this book starts out with, you know, a brief introduction to the Everglades and what they are. And then there's a little historical section with the Seminole Indians, which, you know, were a tribe that never surrendered, and they were practically exterminated by colonialists, but they survived as a tribe and have land in the Everglades to this day. And then it moves on to the naturalists that, you know, I was discussing in some of those other books, and the collection issues, you know, the women's hats and all of that going on during the Victorian period. And from there, we transition into the pollution and the encroachment into the Everglades and how horrific that is to the biome, and how that plays into the water shortages in South Florida and climate change and everything. And then you start seeing the politics of power. And so this book is such a broad snapshot of one specific topic, and the way he looks at how politics plays out across time is just, it's enlightening, it's fascinating, it's, you know, so important and critical to our understanding of how politics works, and, you know, how we need to play into this system to bring about change, and all of the dynamics that play into that. It's just, I just felt like it was incredibly relevant, especially right now. Anytime. This was incredibly relevant political look, at one topic. So highly recommend this one. You know, I hesitate to say that a nonfiction book is info dumpy, because that's kind of the point. But there are sections that are slower than others depending on, you know, your interests, because it's not strictly, you know, a naturalist book, but it is, you know, but it's just, it's the nature, it's the politics, it's the history, it's the sociology, it's all of it in here, and really important. So yeah, Springathon was awesome. I loved it. Thanks so much for hosting. And yeah, I'm gonna stop now, and I'll be back tomorrow, I think, with another wrap up. I'm gonna get caught up here. Oh, thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon. Bye.